Hello and welcome back to the continuation of the Air Temple Island from Legend of Korra. This episode we're going to be working on kind of some roofing details. Now, last time we did make a roof tile. Upon review though, basically I didn't like the overall texture of it. I didn't like how the colors looked on the wood and everything. So we are going to go back in and make something a little bit more detailed and over-engineered, you could say, so that we can get something of a bit higher quality, and that's what I want to do in this series. Unlike normally where we kind of have to settle for things, you know, I'm not going to be uploading just the building up to the workshop. I'm going to be uploading this map to the workshop once it's completed, so we don't have to worry about part count anymore, beyond maybe lag, but we will be able to simply flesh out all the details. And so this episode, the build goes from about 3,000 pieces to 30,000 pieces by the end of it, and it's really just up to these roof tiles as to why that happened. We also complete a lot more of the spire. The roof is, you know, set in stone, and it takes a little bit of time. Now, simply, you know, going through and adding these new ridges and things, we have to go back in and, of course, delete what we previously have made. And the reason I like the new roof a lot more is, one, it's a little bit more clean. You know, it also has these thinner stripes and lines going through it, making it from afar look a lot more textured and a little bit more busy, like the actual Chinese or Japanese style roofing is. And you know, when you make those ridges, as you can see on the old tiles, we originally used just a square going down the side, and you can do that. You know, it looks close, and people could probably understand what you're referencing when you are making something like it. But the new ones, the ridges are actually a square, and then a 45-degree turned square on top of that. And what that does is it creates more vertices and gives a little bit more of a rounded feel, because it is taking up a little bit more space, and also makes it look a little bit more decorative because you can get some cool shadows and different lines being cast down the side, and it's just a little bit of extra detail. We're also going to be making a template, of course, for the front of the roof, because we're going to need these gold trim to kind of follow the roof peak upwards and you know, match the actual spine of the roof itself. You know, trying to go in, decide how to make this work, but I think the simple gold trim with the kind of Nordic almost decoration on it looks pretty good. So that's what we're going to be going with today. Also add a little bit of a ridge on top, just so that we have something up there to make it look a little bit more fancy, because, you know, temples and things like that are probably one of the more fancy buildings that we as a species tend to make. It's something, you know, super important for people, and also a very public space. Now, obviously, you know, you can make a fancy building and not be a temple, but we always, you know, between cathedrals or like the Taj Mahal, you know, we really pride in the craftsmanship inside of these type of things. Now, we're also going to need a larger roof variant as well, and this one's going to be so that we can have a total of 8 meters wide, and this roof variant is going to follow the very much the same motif and coloration. Now, what I've noticed here is this: I've colored the roof the exact same color, and upon inspection, they look completely different, and that's because I rotated these wooden blocks a different direction. And, you know, depending on the direction you rotate them, there's actually a different texture on them, and the texture actually dictates kind of the color saturation, simply because of the grain, the amount of grain being shown, or possibly the shadow and light areas are a little different as well. So that's why we had to go back in, delete it, flip all those the right direction, and then go on and move ahead with the new coloration. Now, I am making this in a single piece you know, the left and the right side. Some people would just make it on, you know, the left side by itself. However, because I'm not doing a perfect job of centering these things up, if I did that, the ridges and things wouldn't be aligned if I just flipped it over. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind for you guys. You know, I am showing and talking about my mistakes so that hopefully you guys can avoid them later on. And when you're just building things, this is kind of just my workflow. I kind of wing a lot of the stuff that I do. You know, I don't pre-plan things very well. Like even here, you can see the roof isn't even long enough to cover up some of the side there, and that's just due to the hexagon that this building is shaped off of is at a completely wrong angle. So, you know, I have to do a lot of custom work to get things to fit, get things to stitch together using this tile set. It still saves us a bunch of time, but you can see, you know, I do have to copy and paste, move things over to the left to make a new ridge line here, so that we're able to then copy the left side over, move it over to the right, and seal that all up and make it look as nice as possible. You can see even the stripes are hitting these at completely different angles. It's a little worrisome, but from a distance and really beyond just building it, you don't notice it. And so I'm pretty happy with the way everything has turned out. It's going to be my most detailed build to date, and it's also going to be probably the longest build that I've ever done. Simply because we're going to have to go back in and do some wall texturing on, you know, the front entrance next episode, and also try and make the cap to the temple kind of spire, because that thing is going to be, you know, made of gold. It's going to have a hexagonal roof coming up to a central point, and that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. If you guys, you know about making spires in Planet Coaster, you can see they're just time-consuming tasks, because you have to just kind of set up the mirroring correctly for these type of things. But you know, using a nice rough wooden piece here to make sure we know where that 45 is and where these two roof lines are going to meet. And also, you know, you can actually copy the other little spires off of these and move them over, meld them, change them a little bit just by freely manipulating them into the right angle. And that's how I did a lot of this going forward. It did speed up the process a little bit. Also, you know, moving some of the other tile sets around to make them match and make them look a little bit more mirrored to each other. You can see here that even the cross members aren't quite matching. It's just one of those things. You can't get it exact at an exact angle that we have it. They're not designed to fit like this, so you know, you're gonna have to fiddle with it until it looks right. You know, when I was in art school and stuff, my common kind of motto was, when I was painting things, was simply paint it until it looks right. Because really, you know, halfway steps or in progress shots might look really weird until you're done, and so you can't get discouraged when you're looking at something and you're not happy with it. You got to keep pushing forward. You got to try and finish the thing, and then at that point, you should be free to critique yourself, so that you don't critique yourself mid-progress and prevent yourself from even finishing something. That's a hard thing to do. Any creative process, whether it's, you know, music or visual like this, is a very strenuous and self-critique type of thing, and you know, you can't put yourself down too much when you're doing this kind of stuff. If you guys don't think you're a great builder or whatever, you know, you don't get good by not doing it. That's the thing. And I'm not saying that, you know, I guess to be mean or anything. It's just you got to commit the time to get better at it. And if you're scared of failing, then you sadly just won't get better at it. You know, I've been kind of building stuff like in multiple video games, and I have an art degree, so for me this is kind of normal at this point. But for people just starting out, you know, the biggest thing is just push through, don't get discouraged, and if you really want to do it, you should get it done, and you'll be happy once it's done, and then you can move on to something else. Okay, that's enough for the rant, I guess, of this episode. We're gonna have to use some different roof trim along the bottom of these wider pieces to actually make that flush to the foundational walls, and it also makes it look a little bit nicer. The little curls on the wooden beams kind of remind me of like the air symbol a little bit, so that's why we are using that. It is also a nice fluted design, and it just has a nice kind of texture to it that can match the detailing on the upper section of the roof itself, and provide a little bit of a break when you're looking from below upwards. And hopefully you guys will be able to learn a thing or two from today's speed build as we go forward and finish up the spire. Now, the manual placement of this, now luckily the opposite side is a pretty close mirror of the side that we're currently working on. So we will be able to copy and paste it over and then stitch it together like we are doing these corners, because obviously I can't account for how those corners are going to line up. It's going to be kind of a deal with it when the time comes, and when we do, we'll do very much the same steps going through here, moving things over, copy and pasting it. But this is definitely where all of our part count is coming from. You can see just how many little parts are in these roof tiles to get these curves, to get these lines, and you know, eventually I'm a little worried about lag and latency, but as of right now, still getting about 40 to 50 FPS, because I think, you know, getting rid of everything else around the park has helped with that. And hopefully when we continue working and expanding on other buildings, we'll be able to kind of keep that, and you know, FPS won't be an issue. Had to make a new front for the larger roof tile, just because otherwise we wouldn't have the detail needed. Also, if you guys want, instead of uploading, you know, any build today, I could technically upload these roof tiles as a separate thing as well, so you guys can have a different variant of the Asian roof. Now, I know a lot of people have used and uploaded their own roof tiles for this, and you could probably find some really good ones out there already. So if you are itching for that Asian style kind of immediately, then I suggest just going to the workshop and downloading some other people's stuff, because I'm sure it's there. If you look for it, you know, the game's been out for a while. The community is super active in terms of the creation of these things, and the quality is just amazing on some of the stuff that people make. It just kind of blows me away. It's just fascinating to see how popular this game has become, and, you know, making the Steam top selling list. You know, Planet Coaster is I think a good flagship for simulation and building games kind of going forward in the next couple years, and hopefully we can get some different themes as they upgrade and progress through their process of developing the game even farther. There we go. There's the other half, and things are starting to come together at this point, and I really just like the overall feel of this place. It looks quite like a palace or a temple. Very large, very commanding of its overall space. So right now, you know, we're just going to go through, look at upgrading the spire. Now, sadly, the spire, we will have to go back in and, you know, fix all these corners again, just simply because of, you know, the way the roof tiles have been laid out. And I can't stress that enough. If you're doing a certain shape, do spend a little bit of time pre-planning this, because this took me many hours to try and fiddle and handcraft all these little pieces to make them all work together. So, you know, much rather have spent 4 hours making the roof once rather than making it 10 times in about 6 hours. So it's a little annoying and slow, but, you know, as I said, you got to stick to it, and you'll be done soon enough. So we'll go ahead and stack these up, and we'll take a look at the finished tower at this point. Alright, so here we are at the pagoda style kind of tower with the almost fortress style base, having all of its roof lines completed and detailed out. Everything is looking really good so far. We're at a good pace to hopefully finish this initial building within the next episode. Now, I'm sorry, I guess this took 3 episodes to complete one structure, but it is the most large and most detailed structure, I think, on the whole island. So, you know, everything else will come together within 1 or 2 episodes. You know, if they're larger compounds, they'll take multiple episodes, but we can finish at least probably a building or so per one. But just the overall scale of it, I love the color difference between, you know, just how white the foundation is and then the roof, kind of detailing out where everything is, so you can actually see the shape even though it's kind of blown out from the sun here. You know that it's a 6-sided structure, and it's just giving us a really good template to work with. We'll also be able to save and use the roof tiles around on the other structures, because everything's going to be sharing the same roof. It is kind of a single cohesive compound overall, and luckily we'll be able to finish that up shortly. So what I did was I upped the tower all the way up. Now it does start at about, I think we get what, 4 and 2, so 6 meters, and then 5.5, 5.5, and then 4 meter wall height going all the way up here. And I think that helps make it look a little bit more compressed as it gets taller. And also, you know, these things do change in height as the height goes upwards, and the floors have to get kind of a little shorter, because obviously the technology required to make a tall structure, you know, it's pretty hard to do with just simple wood and stone like this. Like the amount of interior supporting in there would have to be pretty insane. Now the top 7th floor is missing, and the 7th floor we're going to go ahead and retexture this actual piece over here. We'll retexture it and make this look golden, and you know, add a whole bunch of detail onto it. We'll make the kind of hexagonal roof on top, and then we'll move that piece over finally to the rest of the structure. Now, every time I click on this building, I do get a lot of lag, as it is a lot of parts. It's a multi-building structure, so, you know, like for example, these things back here, not a whole lot of parts to them. You know, we got 120 parts. We also have 30,000 parts in one building, so that is going to create some interesting little discrepancies, maybe even in this video, that I can't really do anything about. But that's why we have the speed build section, so that you guys are able to see everything a little bit more smooth, because I might lag in there, but just because it's sped up times 10 normal speed, it does naturally smooth it out. But next episode, yeah, we'll finish the top of the castle, or the temple, and then we'll put some of the details on the front faces here, maybe get the front archway done, and then at that point, this building is basically complete based on the reference material. We might have to add some details onto it just to make it look interesting still, but I'd rather move on from this building after next episode. So if you guys enjoy Planet Coaster, and if you enjoy this episode, feel free to leave a like down below. Leave a comment on what you guys think, and hopefully you guys can give me some feedback as to the roof tiles or the general shape of the building and things like that. Check out my other videos if you haven't done so already, or if you're new, and I'll see you all next time.